Hey everyone, this is Chioma, the Robot Diva, bringing you the best in robotics and creativity from Steam Divas. Today's episode is super exciting. I'm joined by a trailblazer who is taking humanoid robotics to the next level. He's the director of US operations at Engineered Arts, the company behind Ameca, one of the most lifelike humanoid robotics in the world. So please welcome Liu Chen.
Just want to say hi and thank you for having me on the show, Choma. Really appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah. So before we get started, I would like to give a quick summary of Leo's bio. Since the summary is really small, he's a genius. But Leo joined Engineered us in 2023 to build out the humanoid robotics company's first international expansion here in the United States. And this allowed Engineer Arts to expand their service area and footprints to become a cultural phenomenon in the humanoid robotics industry in the United States. Leo is living out their childhood dreams. And if I was to be honest, I would say he's living out my own childhood dreams. He believes that robotics has the potential to bring benefits to humanities much beyond just stacking boxes in dark warehouses or building cars in dangerous factory. And when he's not netting out on robotics, Leo can be found outside, pointing himself down mountains on a bike or trying to convince his senior corgi, that's Bruce, that walks are indeed a necessary part of life. Welcome, Leo. We're happy you're here.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Choma. Really do appreciate it. Yeah, happy to carry on the conversation.
Leo, let's start with your story. Who are
All right.
you and what first brought you into the world of robotics?
Yeah. Honestly, like you said before, I am living out my childhood dream. I've wanted to build robots since I was a really, really little kid, since I was watching Empire Strikes Back for the first time on TV, and I saw R2D2 sort of roll across the screen. And I knew instantly that moment, like, I want to be a part of that. That's something that I want to help create and build. Um, so that's led me to a career in STEM. I didn't start off in robotics. When I graduated college, I actually worked at an analog IC company called Linear Technology. But that wasn't pure robotics. It taught me the fundamentals of electrical engineering. It taught me problem solving skills, and it let me be exposed to a lot of different cool things. Early on, as a young engineer, I got to help out on the first generation iPad, the second generation Segway, the first generation Tesla Roadster. Those were all projects that I had an opportunity to touch on and put my hands on. But then after 7 years of that, I realized that I was kind of a glorified babysitter in a lot of ways. I was dealing with, yeah, like it was always somebody else's problem. You get handed this crying baby, you'd have this crying baby, and then once you soothed it and it was no longer crying, you gave it back to its parents. And that's fine. That's definitely a cool learning experience, but I didn't have a child to call my own. So after linear technology for 7 years, I joined an unannounced Google project that was promptly shut down about 2 weeks after I joined it, which scared the living bejesus out of me. You go from utter stability at linear technology, where I'd sat at like pretty much the same desk for however many years, had the same job title, worked for the same boss. Everything was great and stable. And then you join a new company, and within 2 weeks, your project just gets demolished in front of your eyes. So definitely a stressful experience, but luckily they gave me some time to find another position within Google, and that's when I joined Project Loon. Project Loon was a competitor to Starlink in a lot of ways. So instead of satellites beaming down internet, you had balloons beaming down internet. And I was part of a team that designed these giant 60-foot tall and 120 feet tall balloon launch robots. So when I first joined the team, it took 8 really large, really strong, really buff ex-military guys about 4 hours to launch one balloon. And by the time that my team and I had sort of finished our first robot, we got that down to about 4 people my size and about 40 minutes to launch a balloon. So we were able to automate the whole balloon launching process. These are giant weather balloons, beaming down internet. It was really, really cool because we had the opportunity to really help people. And that's a life changing moment for me when I realized, like, hey, not only am I building technology, I'm building technology that can help people. So we were actually able to reestablish communications on Puerto Rico after Hurricane Maria hit with our technology. We were actively serving Africa when Loon was unfortunately shut down towards the end of COVID. So when Loon shut down, I had a choice of staying with Google or finding a job within Google, basically, or looking elsewhere. And at the time, I was really big into kiteboarding. I was a big surfer bum. So I reached out to one of my kiteboarding buddies, and he told me that he was working at a robotics company, but it was agricultural robotics. And I might not look like I love food, but I really do. And I was kind of like, you know what? Any company that can help grow food better, more sustainably, I'm definitely on board. So I joined Verdant Robotics to help lead their electrical engineering team. We captured 60%, or I forgot it was 40 or 60% of the United States carrot crop in a contract. We were actively serving carrot farms across California. Really, really fun project. Basically, we were able to reproduce a digital twin of a farm at the millimeter level of accuracy,
Oh,
and utilizing that, being able to identify the difference between a baby carrot and a baby weed, and apply a suppressant on the weed so that the carrots could dominate and basically help out with the labor shortage in agriculture in California, help grow carrots better, more sustainably. They're still active right now. They're selling the robots. Really cool to see them continue to succeed, Verdant Robotics. After 2.5 years at Verdant, I got tapped on the shoulder by a recruiter asking me if I wanted to help lead engineered arts growth in the United States. I'd never worked with humanoid robots before, but they pitched me a really compelling story about how robots like Ameca that engineered arts builds can really help the world. And I wanted to be a part of that journey. And I really wanted to work for someone like Will Jackson and Morgan Rowe. They're the current CTO and COO of the company. They're very just upstanding people. They stand by their principles. They're not about the money. It's not about valuation for them. It's actually making an impact with the product that they built. Not to say that my other companies weren't about that, but here in the Silicon Valley, you see a lot of people get lost in valuation. That's what they chase. So it was really, really refreshing to hear the motivations behind building these really incredible robots that Engineered Arts has put together over its 20-year history. And I really wanted to be a part of that story. Yeah.
wow, wow! That's really quite an expensive experience. I love the fact that you didn't really start in robotics because I think sometimes most people think that you got to go study robotics in school or something like that. The next question I wanted to ask you was like, you said you felt lucky enough to live out your childhood dream, like you mentioned. What was that moment that created that spark that made you say, "Yes, robotics is for me"?
It's probably not the moment that you'd expect.
Oh my goodness.
Um, so I'm terrified of heights. I'm an absolute weenie when it comes to heights, even though I rock climbed for a while. Like, I even just thinking about rock climbing right now, my palms and fingers are getting a little sweaty, if I'm being honest. But we were working on our second generation of the balloon launcher at Loon. And it's this 150 foot tall balloon launching robot. And my gosh, to get up that thing, like you basically had to wear rock climbing safety equipment. You had a full body harness, you had clips, and it took a good 15, 20 minutes to climb to the top. We didn't have an elevator. Like you literally had to climb this giant ladder, transfer the safety thing, make sure you were clipped, and like all this kind of stuff. And I remember one day I'm sitting there hauling this 45-pound gear bag with me, climbing up this robot that I'm helping build and design. And it clicks. Like, it didn't matter that I was terrified in that moment. It was like, sure, I was getting blown around by the wind, staring off into the distance, hoping that there was not a sandstorm lurking around the corner. Being suspended, I was probably 100 feet off the ground this time. But, I didn't care. Even though I was scared, it was like, it didn't matter. I was doing something that I truly, truly believed in. I was working with a team of people that were smarter than me, but that I drew inspiration from, and
Mhm.
that made me want to push myself harder and get past that fear. And there's that moment of like, wow, I'm doing something cool that like little Leo, if little Leo saw me doing this, he'd be quite proud of me. So
Mm.
yeah,
I
yeah.
like that. I really like that. Yeah, sometimes when you're in the midst of doing your passion, you kind of like realize that, oh man, I'm supposed to be here, even when you
Yeah.
feel like I wasn't supposed to be here. And I think a lot of times, a lot of young people, all people who didn't start out engineering, they have this thinking that I don't feel like I belong here. But from what you're saying, is like it's just stay there long enough, a moment would come when you realize that, hey, maybe I do belong here, right?
I mean, no, don't get me wrong. I still suffer from imposter syndrome. Like, I'm constantly like hoping that Will Jackson doesn't realize how much of a dum dum I am, and that he's hired the wrong person. He's gonna fix that mistake. Don't get me wrong. Like, I have that imposter syndrome in the back of my head a lot, and it's tough sometimes just to quiet that down a little bit.
Mhm.
But it's also just you draw inspiration from the people around you. You know, Will
Yeah,
Jackson created this company from nothing
yeah,
and was able to build it up, not using venture funding or like being a crazy, over-promising hype man like you see out
yeah.
in the Silicon Valley. He was able to do it in the right way, and that's something that I draw a lot of inspiration and strength from. So,
Yeah, I actually enjoy Will on LinkedIn. I follow him
oh,
and I just
he's a
watch him
straight
work. Yeah.
shooter. That
He's a
man
straight
is just
shooter.
like,
I
yeah.
can so relate to him because I'm a straight shooter myself. I'm just like, okay.
Zero guff from anybody, and like
Yeah, I love that. I love that about him. So yeah, I get
100%.
that. So what connects all these experiences for you? Like I know you were, with the agriculture and then you were the balloon and yeah, now you're here and what
Yeah,
connects all of this for you?
so I don't plan on having any children. Like I'm 40 years old. Like I'm probably not gonna have any children, but the legacy that I want to leave behind when someday I leave this earth is I'm hoping that I've done more good than bad. Like I've put more into this world than I've taken from it. So if you look at my career, a lot of it has been around helping people in some way, shape, or form, right?
Yeah.
At Loon, reestablishing internet in Puerto Rico was such a powerful moment. Being able to actively give people access to something that they really need for communication really, really hits home for me. Like I
Yeah.
still, in my like days when I'm feeling sad, I still think back on that moment for strength
Mhm.
and inspiration. Verdant was all about feeding people, the way that we currently grow crops here in the United States is unsustainable.
Mhm.
And we're going to have to feed so many more people in the next 40 years. We need to
Yeah.
grow more food over the next, I think, 40 years, 20 or 40 years than we have over the entirety of human history combined. That's crazy. And we, at the time, working for Verdant, we believe that our technology could contribute to helping that. And I still believe that they are capable of doing that. At Engineered Arts, you might be like, oh, okay, you help a company build a humanoid now. So what? Like, how does that help people?
Mhm.
Well, if you take a step back and look at why we built the humanoid is centered around communication. It's around human connection. We are hoping to deploy it in areas where it can help. So things like elder care, solving the loneliness epidemic in elder care, helping with the 94% nursing home shortage right now. So there's a statistic that 94% of nursing homes are actually understaffed here in the United States. That's terrifying.
Yeah.
And maybe someday our robots can help that. We're talking to medical service providers to act as wayfinders within a large medical hospital system. Our robots are multilingual out of the box, or even things like patient intake, stuff like that. So our products can help people. It's my job as the leader here in the United States to put us into those positions to succeed and actually make a positive impact on people's lives.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's good to know. I really love the fact that you have been very intentional about picking the team you're part of or the things that you're chasing career wise. And I noticed that when you were chosen to spearhead the U.S. expansion here, this is something that was new for you. What was it like building out robotics companies, international presence from the scratch?
Oh, it was terrifying. It was absolutely terrifying. Uh, I didn't even know when I first joined if I was going to get my first paycheck or when I'd get my first paycheck because the U.S. entity hadn't been fully uh, like the paperwork wasn't quite finished yet for some of the things, and like it wasn't like I had gotten flown to England to meet these people. For all I knew, I was going to end up in a ditch in London somewhere, like after flying there for my first day. It was the most epic first day commute of my life. I actually drove down from Bay Area to LA, where my parents are, dropped off Bruce the corgi, dropped him off my mom, and then flew from LAX to London. From London, drove 6.5 hours on the wrong side of the road to
Wow.
Falmouth for my first day of work. So a little bit of a journey there. I'd say though the challenge was the fact that nobody at Engineered Arts had done this before, and I hadn't done this before. You know, we didn't know what to expect. We didn't know what we didn't know. Like, there was a lot of ambiguity in terms of what the responsibility of this office would even be at the time. We didn't know if we were going to be able to get customers out here beyond just the ones that we already signed, what the interest level is going to be like, how we were supposed to staff it. So I want to give a lot of credit to the people that I work with, both at headquarters in England and also the people that we've hired here in the United States around maintaining flexibility in ambiguity. You know, there's a lot of unknowns, and we were able to operate in that space. Sure, it was stressful sometimes. We're getting better at defining that space as we speak, but just being able to execute with a lot of ambiguity would be the biggest challenge I faced, I think.
Oh, I
Yeah.
really like the word flexibility in ambiguity. That's really great. Like, I think that's a superpower, right? I think that's a superpower. That's a very human thing, but it's also a superpower because by nature we are opposed to change, and
Yeah.
so whenever you're like having change with not with the unknown, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Appreciate the fact that you mentioned your team, and you also mentioned that you were giving them a lot of credit here. But during this journey, it doesn't really matter if it's engineer or wherever. What's one challenge that you faced that it could be building robot, leading a team, or just doing the expansion that you faced that you can actually remember? And then, can you please tell us how you overcame that challenge?
Yeah. Hmm. Let me think of a good example. So we'll go back to Verdant Robotics, actually.
Mhm.
Verdant Robotics was the agricultural robotics company, and part of their system was a series of lights that were around 10 times brighter than the sun. Um, these were at its core a 48 volt to 85 volt boost circuit that would charge a 3300 microfarad cap to 85 volts, overdrive it, an LED for a certain amount of time to create a blinding flash of light. I'm surprised I still have my vision after after testing this thing for so long. But the idea was for this lighting system to dominate ambient lighting and improve their vision system. Now, before I joined Verdant, they had hired an electrical engineer who was extremely talented and designed them a system that was doing okay. Like it didn't fully fulfill their new needs, but they were hacking it to make it work. But the problem is, this system that this old engineer had designed was not as reliable as it should have been, which is fine because it was early stage prototype.
Mhm.
that they had been using for way too long, but we were running out of these units and we couldn't rebuild them. So all of a sudden, I had a time crunch to deliver a lighting system that the entirety of like the success of the company kind of hinged on, right? Like if I didn't build it, there'd be no more lights. We wouldn't be operating, and I'd find my butt on the street. What is the leader of the electrical engineering team doing if he can't solve this problem?
Mhm.
So this system was not an easy circuit to lay out. Like it's a pretty noisy boost going from 48 volts to 85 volts, pretty high current. It was a 3.2 kilowatt pulse. So you had to be able to take that. And you also had other requirements like inrush current. When you plug this into the system, you didn't want the rest of the system to brown out. You had to have a reliable way of triggering it with minimal delay to synchronize with the vision system. So it was a challenging problem to solve. And you had a time crunch too. And this was during COVID. Like, so part shortage was real. Like, I my Mandarin got so good during COVID during this project because I was calling up suppliers in Shenzhen that were desoldering certain chips from certain consumer products for me to send back so that I could use in my board and stuff like that. It was nuts. It was absolutely insane what I had to do. But in the end, what allowed me to overcome this problem is actually asking for help. Um, it was actually reaching out to my CEO at the time, being like, "Yo, this is really high risk. If I don't land this, we're pooched." So I called it out as high risk. I called out my own deficiencies. I was very honest. I'm not a power engineer. I'm not a power guru. Yeah, I worked at Linear Technology, but like I was more of an analog A to D guy. I didn't know boosts. So I reached out to the right people to ask for help. The CEO put me in touch with Logic, a consulting firm down in Silicon Valley in the South Bay. And Ted Larson set me up with a mentor who could help me review my circuits. And, being able to realize that there was a risk, being humble enough to realize that I was not maybe the best person to solve this solo, then led to a product that is still in operation today, more than 2 years later, or more than 3 years later in the field. Like we built something incredible because it wasn't just me. It was the combined power of all these people that I was able to gather in and convince to help me in this project. So, yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. I think the key point here I'm grabbing out of this thing is just being able to speak your truth and ask for help, right? That's gonna and I think that's very common within spaces that people sometimes are afraid of asking for help. And I think that one of the things I like to tell young engineers who are coming into the space that you have to get comfortable with asking, you have to get comfortable with reaching out for help.
Yeah. I mean, if I look at, I've run teams before, and unfortunately, I've had to let people go on my teams. The people that I've had to let go have never been let go because they asked for help. If anything, the people I've let go have been the ones who are overconfident in their own abilities and who refuse to ask for help and then deliver a flawed product. I'd rather have somebody ask for help early on, communicate their need to me so that I can help them achieve the victory that we all want. No one wants you to fail in a company. No one wants to find someone else. I would rather help you, build you up, upskill you, and together we succeed.
Yeah. In your bio, you said robotics has the potential to do more than just stack boxes or build cars. And some people are actually worried that humanoid robotics are just a sci-fi dream. What do you think robotics should be doing for humanity, like a practical use for humanoid robots?
Yeah. Well, that's a really good point. Like, I'm actually a little bit of a surprising pessimist around humanoids. For a person who works for a humanoid robotics company, you kind of expect me to think that humanoids are going to be everywhere. And I do think that eventually they'll get there. But I don't think the tech is quite ready right now. And the thing that I want to point out is that the humanoid form factor is actually very, very difficult to build for. This form is not easy. It's really restrictive in terms of volume, in terms of energy density, in terms of power density, both output and storage. So if you're going to build a humanoid robot and very much focus on this form factor, you better have a darn good reason of why you're restricting yourself, right? Why are you handicapping yourself? And I don't believe that factories and warehouses are the answer. And that's because there's no good reason why you need to be shaped like a human to work in those spaces. Like, look at dark factories in China. They're just arms mounted on walls, you know? You don't need a full-blown human-shaped object to function well in that. Or you often hear, oh, well, humanoids are meant to work with other humans, so that's why. Well, the truth is, yeah, like factories are designed for humans in some regards, but really factories are designed around efficiency and safety.
Yeah.
Here in the United States, you have OSHA, you have ADA compliance. All of those govern how flat your floors have to be, how much of a slope your ramps are, how wide your doors are.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of designing for humans, really, you should be designing for OSHA and ADA compliance because all factories are going to abide by those rules. Why be human when you can be superhuman?
Yeah.
So what is the humanoid form good at? And we believe at Engineered Arts that it's all around communication. The human face is one of the highest bandwidth forms of communication available to us. You know, you can tell what a person is feeling without them even opening their mouth.
Yeah.
And emotion and expression and eye contact, all that go into drawing people in and creating a compelling experience and makes them want to interact. And that's where I feel like humanoids really, really will play a role in the near term. We're actively deploying in receptionist duties right now. Pretty soon, if you walk into an office building at AppDirect in Montreal, you'll be able to talk to one of our humanoids greeting you, helping you check in. In San Diego County, there's a school system that's piloting our humanoid, Ameca, acting as a teaching aid, as a wellness coach, as a career counselor. Same thing in Virginia. There's a community college system out there, Richard Bland College, that has 2 of our robots, and hopefully soon they'll be deploying one as a career counselor for their rural community college kids.
Nice.
So there's a real world use case where we've deployed our robots out already in terms of communication, in terms of human connection, and creating this sense of just connection, really, between human and robot. So,
yeah, that makes sense. I don't see myself as a pessimist when it comes to humanoids. I do, however, see the where you're coming from with the use case of the way that we're building it right now. And I completely agree with you that connections is one of the main keys here, and not to do the work. When it comes to doing the work, we want something better than us. Like, I want 5 hands. Some days I wake up in the morning, I'm just like, oh, wish I could clone myself so they can do this and that and that, so that makes sense. Yeah, so the connection point would be very key in how we connect with humanoids.
right? Connection and communication.
Yes, and when you think about that, the one thing I always like to say about that is that moves away from STEM into STEAM, because that is the creativity part. And and I love that you're bringing creativity into robotics. So how have art, storytelling, or even play influenced your approach to engineering?
I was super into photography for a large portion of my life. I've taken a couple steps back nowadays because camera equipment is expensive and I have way too many hobbies and way too little time. But it's interesting that even something as not related to engineering as photography has actually opened up a lot of doors for me across my career. Just knowing the principles behind aperture, shutter speed, ISO for sensors, stuff like that. The technical stuff around photography allowed me to help Verdant Robotics with their camera system designs and other stuff. And even at Loon, at Project Loon, help me pick out the correct cameras for the robots and things like that. So, that's not quite directly answering the question, but I will say that creative hobbies have led to follow-on effects that have enabled me to be successful in my career. However, I will say that opening yourself up to different things that maybe aren't necessarily super technical
Mm.
makes you a better engineer because it allows you to think about problems differently. You approach it a different way because you've had different life experiences that maybe someone who doesn't go out into nature will experience. To give you an example, 4 months ago now, I crashed my bike. I was mountain biking near Napa, and I crashed. I was tired. I was riding really poorly, and I ate it. I got up, brushed myself off, looked at my bike, and there was something broken in it. And I had a limited amount of tools with me out there in nature. And, I had a small little multi-tool with me. So I had a jury rig a fix together. That involved my hairband, actually, to get everything together. I had a hairband on me, and I got everything well enough together that I was able to ride back to my car and get home okay.
Okay.
A couple weeks later, we were in Colorado, and one of our robots needed a little bit of maintenance for an event. And in order to get to this one part of the robot, it was actually very, very similar to how I solved the problem with my bike a couple weeks before. It was like, oh, aha, cool, all right, So you never know when inspiration might strike. It might be a bike ride. It might be you're painting something, and that leads you to envision a new mechanical structure, or you're looking at different types of fashion, and that allows you to design a new type of character for someone to interact with in a video game. There's so much interplay between creativity that I don't think there should be a firm divide between STEAM and art, or STEM and art, rather.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. At STEAM Divas, that's one thing we push. We integrate the arts into STEM. And I would like to say, I know you don't think so, but I really do think that you're a prolific writer. I like the way you write. You write out of heart. And if you guys haven't read Leo's writing, I'm a fan. And I think that sometimes because we are not doing a straight dot to dot connection, we don't see how the art influences us. But when it comes to doing the things you're doing, how you connect it to the humanity side of who you are, the way you chase your robotics and your passions around those things. I think it's because you're creative deep down inside, because that's the humanity side of things. And so I can see that even when you're not technically solving a problem with some form of creativity, that influences everything. And that's why Ameca can be a robot that can connect with us emotionally. I always say that if we don't have poetry or we don't have stories, if we experience life like around maybe death or falling in love or something that is tied to an emotion that is really strong, we would be lost. So science has its place, art has its place, and combination of both of them makes it real well. And that's what we really try to push here at Steam Divas.
Makes sense.
So talking about STEAM Divas, we have a lot of young people that is with us, and on RobotDiva channel, we're trying to reach out to people who typically don't see themselves as someone that's into robotics, and so I want to know, what advice would you give to a young person, or practically anyone who's just starting to explore robotics?
Um, well, I kind of have two pieces of advice. One that's more specific, and one that's a lot more general. The specific one around robotics is get your hands dirty. Like, just build. Doesn't matter what. Like, I learned so much from building a remote control boat in the fourth grade, even though it wasn't technically robotics. I helped start the first high school robotics team at my high school for First Robotics. Learned so much getting my hands dirty doing that. So don't be afraid of failure. Figure out a way to build something, whether it's from a kit on Amazon or Legos, or joining your local robotics club if you have one, talking to your friends and trying to build something cool together. It doesn't have to move. It can just like just go out and create. You have this amazing ability as humans to create and use it. So that would be kind of more focused on like robotics and engineering. But in general, one of the most powerful things that I can offer is start being comfortable, being uncomfortable. What I see sets a lot of the folks that I enjoy working with that I want to hire to our company apart from the folks that I toss aside and don't want anything to do with is how comfortable they are when they're uncomfortable. You know, it's okay to not be completely okay with your situation, or you can be angry, you can be upset, but it's how you deal with the world when you're in that state of uncomfortableness. And I think a lot of my outdoor sports and being outside has helped me craft a skill set for myself. You know, when I'm climbing up a hill on my bike, I hate it. I don't like climbing, but I know I'll enjoy the downhill portion, or like kiteboarding, setting up gear in the heat, trying to deal with stuff. Sometimes you're really, really uncomfortable,
Mhm.
but you have to realize that the reward is worth it. And it's sort of the same thing in your career. There are going to be moments when you have to work harder than maybe you want. Maybe you'll be more stressed out than you want to be. Maybe you have to work under duress. Being comfortable and knowing how to function well in those situations will help you stand apart from your peers.
Oh, that's really true. I got into this mindset where I started realizing that emotions are not bad, actually. They are pretty much neutral. They're just like coming up and just telling you what is. And I think it's how we react to the emotions that makes the difference. And I think that this is such a good advice. First of all, build something. Practice makes perfect. And secondly, go ahead and get comfortable with being uncomfortable. I love that. I thank you so much, Leo, for sharing your journey and your vision for the future of robotics with us. And I do think that this is going to be talking to a lot of people, realizing that they can take what we're building and build. That's what we're trying to do here with Robot Diva. So where can people find out more about engineered arts or connect with you?
I mean, LinkedIn is a great place. Engineered Arts is on LinkedIn. We post updates about where we're going to be, what we're building. Will Jackson, definitely follow him on LinkedIn. He's great about making sure people are up to date on what we're building, and also he's just fun to follow. He's got strong opinions. He's a straight shooter, and I really admire who he is. So definitely give Will Jackson a follow. Instagram. Our Engineered Arts actually does have an Instagram where we do post stuff. So that's another way to keep track of us in case you're not a LinkedIn type of person. Our website, of course, engineeredarts.co.uk, or actually, I think engineeredarts.com works now too. Yeah, it does. So just Engineered Arts. Follow us on our socials or check our website. We're definitely building some really cool things that I can't tell you about yet, but really excited about. So, yeah.
Okay, I cannot wait. I will be putting those links in the description of this video once it comes out, so you don't have to memorize everything, or you can slow it down and memorize everything, whichever one. But for the fun part, I figured that we should could just jump into what I like to call the rapid fire question before you go. So, um, favorite robot movie or character?
I mean, I have R2D2 tattooed to me, so I think that's a pretty obvious answer right there.
Oh, that's a dead giveaway. So that's not a hard one. So if Ameca had a superpower, what would it be?
Ooh, it already has a lot of superpowers. Like the amount of joy I've seen Ameca bring to people is incredible. Just absolutely incredible. One superpower that I'd love to give Ameca is the ability to rap. I would love to see Ameca just like throw down some freestyle, you know? So,
Oh, have you ever had Ameca throw down before somewhere?
no, we do poems. Ameca can do poetry pretty darn well, but not raps yet. Hopefully soon. Hopefully
Oh,
soon.
there's just
Yeah.
a thin line between rap and poetry, if you ask me. Talking about music, one song that belongs to the Robot Diva playlist, or if you want, you can give us Ameca's theme song if she has one.
Ooh. In my head, Final Countdown plays every single time I turn on Ameca. Da na na na, da na 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 na. You know, it's just epic. I mean, like being able to be a part of this is really amazing. I don't know. I guess it's stereotypical jock jam, but for me, anytime before I step on stage and I'm about to give a talk or something, I have Eminem's "Lose Yourself" on my Spotify playlist.
Oh,
It hypes me up. It gets me going. That's
yeah.
my personal one. So yeah.
Okay. Was this something you had gotten ready before our meetup today, or was
No,
this
no, no.
an easy one? Oh, okay. So, and to everyone watching, don't forget to check out our other Robot Diva videos where we explore, build ideas and innovation in robotics, and never stop imagining and creating. And maybe one day you'll be building the next humanoid robots we'll all talk about. So, before we go, let's just say thank you so much to Leo. Thank you, Leo, for joining us. And we appreciate all of the information you provided, all of the advice, and we appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you for having me on, Choma. Very much appreciated. And it's an honor to be here.